Hey friends and book lovers, welcome. Today I am going to be talking about some new fall releases in the book world, both YA and adult. I read both YA and adult, so I'm going to include everything. I'm going to start off, however, by either talking about the firsts in a series or the standalones, because it's a lot easier just to collect my thoughts that way. And then I'm going to have a section on all the sequels that are coming out in the fall, which there are quite a few. I would say that's equal numbers of sequels and firsts or standalones coming out in October. And this isn't all inclusive. It's not every single book that's going to come out, but it's the one that I'm most interested in and the ones that I will likely be adding to my TBR or pre-ordering or reading at some point. And I think some of them I might have already even read because they were given to me as ARCs. So I requested them because they sounded so interesting and I gave them a shot because they sounded really good. I haven't read these ARCs yet, but by the time I post this, I might have read some of these. So let's get into it. First off, I'm starting with one that I'm so excited for, one that I've been reading since I found it on, I think it's Webtoons, the comic app, and that's the Lore Olympus book. Now, this is a Hades and Persephone retelling in comic format. The first thing I fell in love with was the art style. The art style is so beautiful. I can't even tell you. It's beautiful on mobile too because it's curated for mobile, that you just scroll down and everything just kind of unfolds as you scroll down in the comic. I loved reading it on Webtoons, but now it's becoming a book, and of course I'm going to support the illustrator and author because it's just really good and it's worth it and it's beautiful, and it's one of those things I want to keep supporting forever because it's Greek history, Greek mythology, which is my culture, and also a Hades and Persephone retelling, which is one of my favorite type of like romantic retelling. So I've really enjoyed this one. It straddles ancient Greece plus the modern world, and she does it really well. So it's been really fun to read, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. I think I pre-ordered the Illumicrate copy. They had like a pre-sale for it a while back, and oof, it's just such a gorgeous copy. I can't wait to receive that one. But that's an example of one that I have already read and kind of already know the story, so I can tell you that it's already really great. This next one kind of straddles knowing the story but not quite knowing this story yet, and that's A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the first in a spin-off of the From Blood and Ash series that she has done. She has 3 books in that series. The 4th one of that series is coming out, I think, early next year, but this late fall she's releasing the first of a companion series to the From Blood and Ash series, and this book, A Shadow in the Ember, is going to follow the gods of that world. So it's going to follow Nyktos, which is the king of gods, and his consort Sarah, and their love and kind of the trials and tribulations that go with that love in their world. So I'm kind of excited for this. I didn't love the 3rd in the From Blood and Ash series, but I'm really hopeful that A Shadow in the Ember will be really good, and hopefully all the feedback from her readers will be taken into consideration when she's writing her next books. But I've pre-ordered this one. I'm excited. I love the From Blood and Ash story and the characters, and I'm really intrigued to learn more about the gods. So this is definitely one that if you liked From Blood and Ash, I think we should probably all read it because I think it's like a prerequisite for the 4th one of the From Blood and Ash series, which comes out in the early 2022. So this next one, I just recently got an ARC for it, and it kind of sounds like the first book of Throne of Glass, like almost a bit of a retelling, or the prequels to that, and it's called Among Thieves by MJ Kuhn, and it follows this young woman who I think is an assassin or some kind of mercenary, and she's apparently the best one, or one of the best, one of the quickest that's known for, and she is trying to gain her freedom from the guild and the guild master, who is apparently very difficult to run away because every time she tries to escape they send someone after her. She runs into or creates or somehow gets involved in this band of smugglers and thieves, and I think we're gonna get the found family trope in this one, which I'm excited for, and they basically help free her, I think, and they fight the guild master in the guild. That's what I'm getting from the synopsis, but I love an assassin story. I love an assassin story, and especially a female assassin story, which is what drew me to Throne of Glass in the first place. So if I have another one that I can read, I would be super excited, and I can't wait to get into this arc. I think it's going to be really good and really fun. I believe this one is YA since our heroine is 17. But regardless, I think it's gonna be a really fun read and I can't wait for this one to come out. And this one comes out the 7th of September. And the book that I was talking to you about before this one, A Shadow in Ember, is coming out in October. So just to get the dates right. So this next one is apparently what people are calling a fantasy retelling of Jane Eyre. And this is called Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. And this one also comes out in October 19th to be specific. And just to be more specific, it's an Ethiopian-based fantasy and it is a YA novel. So our main character, Andromeda, is apparently a hired exorcist and she exorcises negative energies or spirits or curses from homes is what I'm picking up. She is contacted by Magnus, who is asking her to perform a job at his house, and she quickly realizes that he has some skeletons in his closet and this is not going to be a regular job. Apparently if she stays, death is the outcome, but she also feels like she can't really leave him to fight this curse alone, and that's kind of how our story unfolds. Now this one sounds really interesting. I did request an arc for this and I did get it, so hopefully I'll get to it before the release date and I can post a review on it, but that just sounds really great to me. I love Jane Eyre. I really enjoy that story, and I think a fantasy retelling about that in this kind of facet sounds really cool and kind of creepy and kind of horror-like. So I think this is going to be a really great October read for those that are looking for something cool that comes out in October. It can be kind of spooky, and I think this is going to be just that. So I'm excited for this, and I'm really hoping the setting is spooky enough to like fill my expectations. So the next one is one that I think has been already really talked about in the booktube community. So many people that I've seen posting about it, and it kind of got me on the hype train as well. And this is Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, and it's the first in a series. So this is going to be really interesting. It is a YA series as well. This one comes out on October 5th, and I'm just going to read the synopsis because I think that's a lot easier to understand that way. And it says, the dead of Lorai do not rest. Artemisia is training to be a great sister, a nun who cleanses the bodies of the deceased so that their souls can pass on. Otherwise, they will rise as spirits with a ravenous hunger for the living. She would rather deal with the dead than the living, who trade whispers about her scarred hands and troubled past. When her convent is attacked by possessed soldiers, Artemisia defends it by awakening an ancient spirit bound to a saint's relic. In its revenant, a malevolent being that threatens to possess her the moment she drops her guard. Wielding its extraordinary power almost consumes her. But death has come for Lorai, and only a Vespertine, a priestess trained to wield a high relic, has any chance of stopping it. With all knowledge of Vespertines lost to time, Artemisia turns to the last remaining expert for help, the Revenant himself. As she unravels a sinister mystery of saints, secrets, and dark magic, her bond with the Revenant grows. And when a hidden evil begins to surface, she discovers that facing this enemy might require her to betray everything she has been taught to believe if the Revenant doesn't betray her first. So that sounds high stakes. It sounds like exactly the kind of magic that I love, death magic, and it also sounds like a really great spooky October read. I feel like the end of my September, the beginning of October might be filled with some really spooky arcs that I have pretty high expectations of. The next one I'm going to mention, I'm going to make it short and sweet because a lot of folks have also talked about this one, and I have some friends on BookTube that I believe have read the arc for this and have posted reviews. So if I can find one of those reviews, I will post it down below so you can check it out. I do think Jessie from A Bookish Mom reviewed this a month or so ago, so if I can find her review, if it's a solo review, I will post it down below. But that is A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. This is basically a Sleeping Beauty retelling with, I think, a found family trope of strong women and some kind of like fairy tale inception, I think, going on. So that should be really interesting. This one I'm kind of on the fence of. I don't terribly love fairy tale retellings, with a couple of exceptions here and there, but I've heard good things about this one that I would be interested to check it out if it was a quick enough read. But I thought I would bring it forth because I do know a lot of folks tend to love fairy tale retellings, and Sleeping Beauty is one of those beloved stories that we kind of all learned as a child and just one of those classics, so thought I would put it in here. So this next one I haven't heard talked about a lot, but I'm really excited for it because it just sounds really cool and it sounds other than European inspired. So again, there are so many European inspired fantasy stories and series, and of course that's not a bad thing, they're great, but it's fun and great to see more non-European inspired fantasy stories coming out, because then we get to learn more about those kinds of mythologies and those kinds of environments and stories and fairy tales that those cultures got to learn. And it might not be the exact same, but it is still really interesting to see where these stories come out of, because at this point, every story kind of has an origin story to itself. So this next one is called Jade, Fire, and Gold by June C.L. Tan. I'm not sure if this is her debut novel because I haven't read any of her other novels, but I know that it is inspired by Chinese mythology, which is really, really interesting. I'm gonna read the synopsis because it's short and I think that's the easiest way to get into this. So it says, in an empire on the brink of war, An is no one with no past and no family. Altan is a lost heir, his future stolen away as a child. When they meet, Altan sees in An a path to reclaiming the throne. An sees a way to finally unlock her past and understand her arcane magical abilities. But they may have to pay a far deadlier price than either could have imagined. So it says, perfect for fans of The Bone Witch and We Hunt the Flame. And apparently it's a Girls of Paper and Fire meets Tiger at Midnight kind of vibe. All of that sounds really interesting. All of that sounds really good. It comes out October 12th, so not a spooky fantasy, but definitely kind of a political, intriguing, action-packed fantasy is what I'm guessing, especially because the cover shows a lot of action on it. So that's what I'm expecting, and I'm hoping that it's going to be really good. And I think this one is YA. I'm pretty sure. Either YA or new adult, but that's the feel that I get from what I'm seeing about the novel. So I'm gonna jump into sequels. I'll probably go through these kind of quickly because it's hard to go over a sequel synopsis. I haven't read all the firsts of these sequels, but they're all series that I want to read or have gotten into, so I wanted to bring them up because I think that they're going to be really interesting. The first one is called The Blood of the Chosen by Django Wexler. This is the sequel for The Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. So basically in this land, there has been two different factions of people ruling. One happened long ago and was overtaken by the new one that's ruling now. And basically this story is about two siblings. So Gyra, I think is how you pronounce his name, apparently hasn't seen his sister since she was stolen into like the Twilight Order, which I think is the new order that's ruling now. And he goes on a quest to find her. And when he does find her, he realizes that she's been a warrior that's been trained into this new Twilight Order and no longer the person that he thought. So you basically have these two siblings that have found each other standing on the opposite sides of war with their own values and convictions on those opposite sides is what it sounds like, and that sounds really interesting to me. I haven't really read a good sibling story like that in a while, and I think this one's going to be a really cool look at how two sides can feel like they're right and two siblings can be super torn between two different sides of the world. So I digress, but I think it's gonna be really fun, and this is a adult series, so the second one for the series is coming out, I think, in October. The second book for the Black Coast is coming out, and that's called The Splinter King by Mike Brooks. This one is also adult, and it comes out September 7th, so only in a week. I was supposed to read The Black Coast like, I don't know, a couple months ago on Greg LaPerche's channel, and I just never got to it, and I was so sad because it's supposed to be so good and I've heard such good things about it. I'm not gonna go too far into it, but basically it's got some seafaring, some dragons, war, and it sounds very action-packed. The next one is The Bone Shard Empire by Andrea Stewart, and this is second in the Bone Shard Daughter series, which is called The Drowning Empire. This one is about basically bone shard magic and how bone shards contain magic, and it follows a woman who I think is discovering that about herself. I haven't read the first one. I am planning on reading the first one hopefully before this one comes out, because this one comes out November 11th, but that remains to be seen, although the folks that have read it have rave reviews on it. So I have no doubt that that's going to be a 5 stars for me, and I have no doubt that the series is going to be amazing because arcs of this have gone out and those folks have said that the second one is great too, so I can't wait. I'm not sure if it's going to be a trilogy or not. I have a feeling it's going to be a trilogy, but we shall see. The next one is These Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which is the second to These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and this is a YA series. It is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but kind of grosser because it involves like monsters and they're kind of gross. I didn't love These Violent Delights. I thought it was a little slow, but the writing was really beautiful. I would give These Violent Ends a shot if I had a chance or if I had time to do so, but I do know it's coming out, so I wanted to put that in there. And it's called Our Violent Ends, actually, not These Violent Ends. And that one comes out November 16th. The next one is The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni, and this is the sequel to The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, and this one I think comes out in October. I am excited for this series. I think it's gonna be a duology, but I wouldn't be mad if it's longer. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on it. But this basically, the first one at least, followed a prison healer that took up the queen's place place because the queen was really ill in order to compete in the games which the queen was signed up for. So she basically took the queen's place in these games that she had to compete against, and that kind of begins our story. I think that there is a pretty hardcore romance subplot, and I've heard pretty decent things about it. It hasn't been super popular, but I would love to read it and do a dedicated review on this because I think it's going to be really fun. It's been blurred by, I think, Sarah J Maas, and she really enjoyed it, so that makes me look forward to it even more. The last one that I have on this list is Cytonic by Brandon Sanderson, which I think is the third and final in the Skyward trilogy that he's released so far. And this one comes out November 23rd, so we still have time to catch up because it is a YA series, and I think it's Brandon Sanderson's first YA series, and it is sci-fi. I'm not going to go into the synopsis for this one because everyone knows about it. I think everyone's read it except for me, but I'm just happy to announce that I'm pretty sure the last one is coming out in November. So if there's gonna be more in the series, of course that's gonna be awesome, but I know that he likes to either write trilogies or write really long epic fantasy series, so either or, I won't be mad. So that's it for my anticipated fall releases of 2021. Let me know if you have any other books that you're anticipating this year, or if you're excited for any of the ones that I've mentioned so far. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click that like button. That really does help my channel. And if you enjoyed this and you want to see more content from me, don't hesitate to subscribe.